thank you guys so much. Can you guys hear my fan? Just a question. Let me know. Can you hear my fan? Because it's super hot in my room, so I got an extra fan, and I'm just hoping it doesn't like pick up on this mic and bug you guys. So let me know if the sound is okay. And if it is, then we'll proceed here. What's up, everybody? I wish I could shout everybody out. We'd be here all day doing that. So thank you, members. Thank you, mods. Yes, Elbow's mom and anybody that's a newer member, I will definitely get your names put into the thank you list. And then, of course, up at the top is the top tier list. Who are my top supporters who I usually update it once a week. So can't hear fan. Okay, it's not bad. Great. Fans, okay. Awesome. Okay, because I don't know where everybody else is, but it's super hot here in Utah, and so I got to have two fans running. The PC that I have is like a heater, and so yeah, awesome. So everything's good, cool. All right. Okay, so for those that are new to the channel, I am Chris with Monsters Under the Bed. I cover murder mystery to the paranormal. In all my videos, I like to cover missing person posters. So before we start talking about Dylan rounds, let me show a couple of these real quick here. And we've got some new ones here. So this is Melissa Wolf, who went missing this year at the end of May. She is 37 years old, from Renton, Washington. 125 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. It's got some more information. I'll go back to her picture here in just a minute and explain what's going on with these pics here. So it says, "Dear friends in Northwest, please help be on the lookout for my friend Melissa. She has been abducted by a dangerous con man, pictured below, which I'll show in just a second, named Josh Bouchard. He's been indicted fugitive with over 100 cases on his record. Holy cow. It's worse than what's reported in the news. The police are hardly helping. It's bad. If you see a camper converted 2021 black Ford F350 transit van, it's been stolen. License plate C14129Y. In the areas of Portland to the Redwoods, Northern Cali." So let me show you the pitch. So it looks like this is the guy here, Josh. They want people to be on the lookout for this transit van here. It's a F350. They said they could be in, let's go back there. Let's see, where was it? Portland to the Redwoods to Northern Cali. And this is Melissa right here. So it looks like she has been abducted, and that van and Josh are what we need to look out for. So if anybody's in that area on the West Coast, keep an eye out for the vehicle, Josh or Melissa. And then one more, we've got Christopher Smith. Not much information. He went missing 2 years ago. A little over 2 years ago on December 31st. Last seen in Little Rock, Arkansas. So if you have any information about his whereabouts, there's the information there. Or you can contact Facebook, Little Rock Police Department. And that is Christopher Smith. Okay. And I do take requests. I've been getting a lot of requests lately, and I'm going to try to get those in soon. Sometimes it's like I don't get any requests, and then all of a sudden, like, everybody like starts sending in requests all at the same time. So just be patient. I'm just one person. I can only get to so many at a time. So is everything good? In the chat, I see he is frozen. I hope you're not talking about me. Is he frozen? I think it might be you, Chris, sadly. Everything good? Just make sure before we proceed. I guess I could just check and make sure. Okay, everything looks good. Cool. All right, everything is awesome. All right. So, as you guys know, the last time I was live, I had gotten an update from my contact with Search and Rescue. And they had sent me a text message saying that you might have been on the right path. And of course, at the time when they texted me, obviously it was just before I went live. And when they sent the message, they work, during the day. So I can't really call them. I can text message them, but I can't really call her until, in the evening because they're working. Thank you so much, Marlon, for the $5. You're so awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. So she's sent me this and said that the other night, which was like the night after we went out there, so we went out there last Thursday, almost a week ago, and then I believe, let's see, is the date on this? I don't know if I have the date. Let's see. So Sunday. Okay, so Sunday. So we went out on the 7th, I believe. And then, so this Sunday, last Sunday, there was a flight. And this isn't your usual flight. This is a private aircraft. And here is the flight path. Now, what's unique about this flight path, for those that may not know what's going on, and what's very interesting, is that they did this extra little loop right around this Park Valley. And we'll kind of talk about why Park Valley is kind of a area of interest. But first I'll talk about what they're doing, and then we'll get into why Park Valley and just that area could be a potential lead. So when we fly our drones, and with drone deploy, if we want to set up an area that we want to map out in 3D time, you would set up your kind of box or rectangle or whatever area that you want to obviously map out, and then the flight path would be, let's scoot this over a little bit real quick. Thank you so much, Bella Amherst. You're awesome. Thank you so much for the $4.99 super sticker. Okay, so this is what it would look like. Scroll up here. Obviously now with the drone, it doesn't need to like make these like kind of curves, because obviously this is a private aircraft. With the drone deploy, it can stop, move over left to right. It doesn't need to circle around. But what it's basically doing is doing a survey, and most likely this is they're using LiDAR, and they are surveying the land and making a 3D real-time map of what's going on, of the terrain. And she said that the fact that they made this extra little loop around here is very interesting. Now, we were out there last Thursday, and we were kind of just we did a couple of areas out there. One of them we did touch on somewhere, I would say around about here south of Park Valley, and then we did some more areas that were further south. But let me take a sip of my Pepsi. But when I talked to her that night, because not only does my contact at Search and Rescue speak with Box Elder and other law enforcement, but they also speak with pilots and stuff. And obviously someone sent this to her and noticed that they recognize this kind of flight path as this is probably them scanning in LiDAR and mapping out the terrain. And this could be definitely an area of interest concerning Dylan rounds. Thank you so much, Deborah, for the $4.99 super sticker. You're awesome. So we definitely talked about that, which was really cool. I have to be careful of what I can say because, like I said, she shares a lot of information, but some of that stuff I can't, I don't want to get her in trouble or misinterpret what she told me. But as far as that goes, that's pretty much what is going on, is that they're clearly mapping out the terrain, which is amazing. Now, the only thing is that she says, and why she's like, she would love for us to go back out there, which we are planning to, is, yes, it's going to give them a fresh, a new look at this terrain, and it's going to map it out and everything. The only problem is that they're at such a high altitude that, back it up here. Well, let me show you an example here. So this was us when we used drone deploy, which is basically the same thing that flight is doing. And as you can see, the flight plan, as you can see, it just kind of zigzags back and forth. And now, so let me show you the 3D model. So basically, this is what they're going to see now after they map it out and everything. But the only problem is, she was telling me, is that with it being so high, yes, they're going to be able to map some stuff out, but they would love to have like a drone flying like 30 feet off the ground compared to, you know, a private aircraft, which is, you know, 10,000 feet in the air. And so that is our plan, is to go back out there in that certain area. And we do have some locations in mind. It's pretty cool. So obviously there's so many things. We kind of showed this last time, but I just want to kind of give you an idea of what it, you know, they're doing out there. And as you can see with drone deploy, these are every time it takes a picture. This is kind of the same concept with LiDAR. And I can actually go and click on one of these pictures, and now I actually see it, the real picture, which is really cool. And then the other neat thing about LiDAR and that kind of stuff, let me back out real quick. I'm getting better at using this thing. Last time I was terrible at it. Is what's interesting is you can see the elevation. What's cool about the elevation is you could, if you fly low enough, you could actually see where ground could be disturbed, which is really interesting. And what they can also do, which is really cool, is they can do an overlay. So here, as you can see, we've got Google Earth, which is, this is probably 2019 right here. This is where we flew. What they can do is they can overlay the two maps. So they can take the 2019, or even this one that they just did with the LiDAR recently, and let's say we fly our drone over some of the same area. They can overlay it and tell if any dirt has been disturbed within that time period, which is really cool. So there's just a lot of things that they can do with this technology. And with us going back out there, flying the drone really low, about 30 feet off the ground, is going to help them out a lot. So, let's see. So let's go back here. And so before I finish, and we'll get into why Park Valley is of interest, let me just quickly jump over to Aiden for just a second, and then we'll go back over to Dylan, because they're actually doing the same thing with Aiden Clune, which is really cool. So as you can see, you're going to notice the same kind of flight path where you just kind of looping back around. And they probably went up into the mountain range here and detailed that. Aiden Clune went missing a week before Dylan Rounds did. He stayed at a hotel in Wales, which is just a little bit north up here. He left the hotel on April 27th, early in the morning. Went down highway, I believe, 93. He drove, and he got out of his vehicle, I think it's right before the curve. It's kind of hard to see with this in the way, but it's somewhere in this area here. He just parked his truck right off the highway here, and then went into the the mountain range. They tracked him for about 10 miles and lost him. So it looks like they're scanning that terrain as well. So that's great. So happy because I tried to talk about Aiden as much as I can, because I feel really bad that, especially for his mother, that you got two kids that go missing. One kid gets national attention, the other one doesn't. And we really want to try to go out and help Aiden as well. We might. The only problem, the reason why Dillon is easier for us is obviously it's in the same state. We don't have to drive as far. It's only an hour and a half away from where I live to get to where the places we've been searching, maybe 2 hours. This would take a lot longer, probably about a 4-hour drive, maybe 3.5. But we do know that they did have a search party over the weekend. So, and I'm trying to find some info, see if they had any luck. But they might be reviewing the footage. One more thing before we go back into why Park Valley is of interest. And because people have been asking me. So, as you guys know, we've got tons and tons of drone footage. The people that we work for, Search and Rescue, out here in Utah, they're like a nonprofit organization. And they can always use extra help. They always have extra footage that people... You just go to the website, you answer a couple of questions, and then you can review the footage and help out. And if there's something you see, you can help out and look for these all this drone footage with these missing people out there. So because I have been getting some requests to put that up. So I just want to give a quick update. They are updating their website apparently. So the website's kind of like down, so people can't like sign up to review the footage right now. She says it should be up soon. So second it is, I will post it in my community post for you guys, because I've gotten a couple people asking, hey, I'd like to help. And so as soon as that's available, I will let you know, and I'll put that in my community post, and then I'll probably start putting it in the links in the description. So, okay. All right, let's quickly show just some of the people involved in this case, and then we will talk about why Park Valley is kind of interest to us. So obviously we got Dylan Rounds, who went missing, last seen on the 26th in physical form in Montello, but he was last heard from on his talking to his grandmother early in the morning. He had two people that were working with him. That is Jim and Don. Jim goes by James. And we have Don. Don and Dylan did have a fight, and apparently Dylan did fire Don. But from what I understand, and I've kind of mentioned this many times before, Don, from what I understand, seems like a decent guy. And to be honest, from what I've heard, is when he said that he was fired, he didn't care. Honestly, he's like, I've got this money. I wanted to go take a vacation anyway. So it doesn't sound like he held much, resentment towards being fired. Jim, on the other hand, is kind of like the gatekeeper. He is now in custody. He's got kind of a rap sheet in 1986. He was charged with attempted murder, along with robbery and SA. So he has that on his record. And then in 2021, I believe, he beat up a 70-year-old man with a chair. So, and then he's was stocking a bunch of guns that he was leaving at Don's trailer. And now, since he's been arrested, they have came out and said that Jim is technically the main suspect, or a suspect. And then we've got Chase. Chase is the guy that Dylan supposedly gave a ride to on May 25th. So he's kind of the guy that just stumbled out of the desert, kind of bloodied and no boots. But I found a text message where he says, I had my boots on, and I'll show you guys that. And so Chase has also been since arrested. Now, on the 25th of May, which is days before Dylan went missing, he gave Chase a ride back into Montello. And then from Montello, somewhere over Memorial Weekend, traveled. And let me pull up the map here. And this is kind of where this whole Park Valley comes into play. Is he ended up in Park Valley near mile marker 53 at some point, and I'm not sure exactly what day he got picked up, but he got picked up in Park Valley by his father. And so there's a theory that it could be Jim and Chase and maybe one other, that they all, something happened with Dylan, and that they took and hid his body somewhere, anywhere around Park Valley, and that's why he was in that area. There's a couple, heard another story, but I still need to research on that. But that's kind of like the basic theory behind that. Now Chase, like I said, is incarcerated on unrelated charges. He is, I think, for drugs and skipping town as well. Then we've got Kurt and Troy. And I'm sorry, I just didn't have enough time. There is pictures of Kurt now. Who he definitely doesn't look like his brother, who his brother obviously clearly looks like a scary dude. So Kurt and Troy are the Wadsworth. They were the ones that kind of were brought to light by the PI Jim Terry. Now Kurt, and I'm going to play an interview with you guys here in a little bit, that's been out for, I'm not sure how long, it's been out for a few days at least. But I'm going to play the part of the interview is Kurt describing a scenario of what could have happened to Dylan. And it's quite interesting. Very interesting. Unfortunately, it's got a lot of cuss words. I did try to bleep them all out, but you can still kind of hear them, but I did my best. What is on Troy's Cronum? Oh, quite a bit. I have his rap sheet. I don't want to pull it up because they'll probably have names that people are not involved in anything. So, but yeah, he's got a rap sheet. Let's just say this: he's a registered SO. So clearly, he's not a good guy. Now they apparently own the Saddle Sore Bar and Cowboy Bar, which is in Montello. So we'll just skip over here real quick. Okay, so you got Dylan's farm and camper and truck that are all right here. You have the grain shed and grain truck, which was here. This is where he called his grandmother. That's Dylan. And then Dylan's boots were found 100 yards away behind a mound right there. And this is the border, Utah, Nevada. And then you got this little dinky town called Montello. And that's where the Saddle Sore Bar and Cowboy Bar Grill, Saddle Sore Bar and Grill and Cowboy Bar are located. You got Saddle Sore here. Let's see. Actually, you got Saddle Sore here, and then I think the Cowboy is right here. And the Wadsworth apparently own both the bars. Now, we've learned since now that Kurt has kind of been like, at the very least, a close friend of Dylan's, and knows quite a bit about Dylan, and that's who Dylan hanged out with a lot. Let's see, where should you? Okay, so I'm going to play that interview here in just a minute. I'm just trying to, I couldn't get everything, so just one little side note. my PC, because of all this footage we've been getting, it's like completely bogged down my computer, and so I've got to like literally wipe my computer tonight. I've got to take everything off because like all the footage we had, it's just kind of I tried to put it on a portable hard drive, but I've just kind of bogged it down, and so I've got to clear it out because it's been acting really slow. One thing I really wanted to touch on real quick before we get a little bit deeper into the story here is I've seen this in Twitter going around. So here's that video where he was kind of like on that little scooter here thing, and you can see this is probably the boots that he was wearing, and then somebody pointed out that he has two different pairs of boots, but what it is he has a pair of boots and then he has a pair of muck boots. And for those that don't know what muck boots are, I will show you. So yes, they are two different pairs of boots, but these are muck boots. They go up to your shin, used for obviously trekking in the mud. Hoverboard, yeah, thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of it. Yes, hoverboard, thank you. So yeah, I think this picture here clearly is a different pair. These are his muck boots, which they were in his trailer. They did find his muck boots. So and you can actually see the sole and everything, the bottoms here. That it's clearly these are his pair of muck boots. You can actually kind of see where it's kind of wider in his Levi's here, where he doesn't get that on this. Although these are clearly overalls, but those are probably skinnier jeans. But I've seen that kind of rolling around on Twitter lately, like saying, "Oh, he did have two pairs of boots," but yes, he had his boots that he always wore, and then he had his muck boots for, whatever. But those boots were found. So. Okay, so this was a comment from Chase Venstra that I did want to read for you guys, and then we'll get back into. So Dylan's, this is him responded to somebody, and it says, Dylan stopped and picked me up Wednesday, so that was the 25th. He gave me a short ride, said he was low on gas, let me charge my phone, gave me a drink, and dropped me off, which was probably a Montello. My son worked, so what's interesting is Chase actually worked for Dylan. My son worked for him last year, so I've known him a while. He had no fear of me. I had my boots on, so he says he had his boots on. I own property out there and was stranded. I last seen him when he dropped me off around 10 a.m. Wednesday the 25th. I got a ride back home later that day. I was not out there Saturday at all and can prove it. A couple of stores have me on camera. And so there's that. Which there is, I believe, footage of him being at a Little Caesars in northern Utah. Okay. All right, switching gears. Okay, so I'm going to play... So first I'm going to play just little bits and pieces of the interview with Reverend Donna... see if I can say her name.
I want to hurt Kurt. But...
Yeah, Reverend Donna, whose YouTube channel I've got linked. So thank you because she gave me permission to use her interview with Kurt. Now the way she did it is she kind of interviewed Kurt off air, and then when she did put out her video, she kind of talks, plays clips of the interview, and then talks again, and then plays clips. So I just went straight to really the clips of him talking. There's not much. So the first part of this, yes, she is a psychic lady, but I think it's interesting. He kind of just gives a little bit of backstory, just talks about Dylan and a few of the incidences that, happened along the way that we've kind of heard about. And then the second part of this is this kind of newer interview with Kurt, where he talks about a possible scenario that happened to Dylan. I think it's interesting to hear. Unfortunately, it's got a lot of language in it. I tried to bleep it all out. You can probably still hear the cuss words a little bit, but I try to do my very best to kind of bleep it out. And then while that's playing, I've got new footage for you guys. That some of it you've seen, some of it is probably new. So that is what we're going to play now. And then, like I said, I've got the link to the full interview if you'd like to hear it in the description.
This is how the whole container rumor got started.
So that's why I didn't say he was.
Okay, and then so this container rumor is the whole where they thought he was being held as a hostage at the very beginning. You know, when he first went missing, the mother got a call from Kurt. Kurt had supposedly got some information from a psychic, and it was kind of passed down, and it got all kind of twisted. And it was supposedly Chase and this guy Robert, who was holding Dylan hostage in a house in Montello. Of course, they went out and searched this house. There was no one there. No Chase, no Robert, no Dylan. But he's going to talk about it and how it happened.
Being held captive here in
And then one more thing. This is us down south of Park Valley.
Montello in a certain house. I said he could be in this town. He's not out there because there's no place.
So you told her that, and then it kind of, or you told someone, and it just went through the line, and then it blew up into this. Oh, maybe some people are holding him for ransom.
Yep.
So that's another lame rumor or whatever.
Suspects. Now, Kurt is not the one telling me, I'm the one telling him that what I received. She said he's an elitist, right? He makes no apologies when he has more money or better equipment or anything. In fact, he could come across as a little condescending to some people. And he was approached, I know, by multiple people who he had put out of business. He was approached, okay, well, hire us then. Can you hire us? And some of those people have had reputations that are not that great. And so Dylan was just like, no, get the F off my property, et cetera, et cetera. So there's actually multiple people who have a motive to get rid of Dylan.
Okay. Thank you so much, Karen Hensley, for becoming a member. You're awesome. So if you become a member, you get access to perks like the emojis that you see people have that got the cats with the torch and all this. You get access to exclusive videos. I usually put out 1 or 2 member videos a week. I try to really give back as much as I can on this channel for the people that help support it. I know not everybody's got money. Just watching the channel helps support us, and leaving a like. And thank you so much, Little Southern. You're awesome. Thank you guys so much for becoming members. And then also I put your name at the end of my videos. It does take me, usually I update it once a week. So just give me, please be patient if you don't see your name right away. I do want to say one thing. Because I've heard some theories about water rights and, what's like the motive. And I haven't really shared what my thoughts on the motive are. I'm going to be honest. I think water rights maybe. That's kind of lower on my list. I think because they said he was kind of like, Dylan was kind of like, I don't know how we just say it. They actually mention it here in the interview and coming up here, but he was kind of like arrogant, and he kind of talked down to people. I mean, he was just a kid, definitely ahead of his time. And I think it just, maybe he rubbed some people the wrong way. Maybe money could have been the motive, but the weird thing is that like there's no like major money missing other than his wallet's missing. So it's really strange. To me, it sounds like he just kind of pissed some people off, or maybe saw something he shouldn't have. But with water rights, I don't know. I feel like that would be lower, but that's just my opinion, obviously.
That's the actual story.
He just threw the towel and he goes, yeah, I guess I just screwed that piece of land out there. I just, go get me just do what he used to do. I mean, what he did on the side, he done what he calls custom farming, and that's where he makes his money. He's just like his hopes were that he could grow a crop out there, and he said, if I can prove that ground will grow a crop out there, this land he paid like $350 an acre for. Him and his grandpa, right?
Yeah.
It'll be worth $550, $300 an acre if I can. People be fighting over it, and that's what his theory. I want to kind of prove it a little bit. I don't want the whole world to know after that, because I want to be able to start buying this mile, the next mile, and then prove it out, because these people are going to fight over it at that point.
Wow.
I asked him about a girlfriend. I said, Dylan, why don't you have any women in your life? He goes, hey, when I have money in my pocket, they're going to chase me. He got my book back.
Oh, how funny. He was so industrious, wasn't he? What a hard worker.
Well,
and creative, like, that's pretty smart not to put all your eggs in one basket, you know what I mean? Like, work for other people, but then be doing that. He's really industrious.
For his age, the kid is,
in the truck as,
Okay, so for those that are just coming in, yes, I will talk about, because I mentioned it in the beginning, kind of the lead that we've got. I'll recap everything at the end, but right now we're listening to the interview with Donna. I just took little bits and pieces of it because she gave me permission, but it's just kind of giving some stories about his interactions with Dylan, and then, like I said, we're going to be coming up on this new interview, which is like, because like it describes a scenario of what could have happened to Dylan that day. And thinking about that, this is kind of like, technically Kurt is kind of like his best friend out there, like he talked the way, if you listen to all of Kurt's interviews, you hear what sounds like, Kurt, it's Kurt and Dylan all the time. So Dave says, thanks for actually trying to find Dylan, unlike most channels. Thank you, Davey. Yes, we've been out there 3 times. And I'll be darned, we are going to go out there and we are going to find this poor kid. We are determined to. Also, let me just touch on this one more time, because I always get this. So I always see people that are new to the channel come in and say, hey, you're not supposed to be going out there. Yes, we understand that. But what people don't understand is that statement that was put out, that they don't want people going out and searching, is more in response to these locals that were all going to go out last weekend, and they were going to go to Lucin. Because they're still out in Lucin, law enforcement, and I think maybe even some FBI. They're out in Lucin right now, still out there. And they don't want people going out there, and because then they have to worry about what they're doing, and they don't want people that might not be experienced getting lost or hurt, and then that takes time from law enforcement because they got to go babysit. And like I said, we are going far away from where Lucin's at, on a new lead, on a different lead. And like I said, we work along with search and rescue on an unofficial, official capacity. Me and Nick are going to get our pilot's license to work the drone officially. And I'm also going to be taking some SAR classes, search and rescue classes.
Piece of evidence.
Why I think the truck thing is totally, first of all, he washed his own truck. I know that for sure, because I deceived him about it. Because his truck was filthy, and he bought a new pressure washer. And when I seen it clean, I was thinking, I said, well, did you get a new truck? Because it surprised me. I hadn't seen it like that for months. Like it was new. And he goes, yeah, I said, dude, finally put that new pressure washer to work, huh? He goes, yeah, I spent 2 hours. And I didn't do that great a job. And I said, yeah, look, he didn't wash underneath at all. The wells, that still had turning. I said, and he goes, I don't care about that. That'll eventually fall off.
Okay, that is interesting. So he just talked about how Dylan had just pressure washed his truck, because we've heard that Dylan wouldn't pressure wash his truck, but he said that Dylan had just recently pressure washed his truck and missed the wheel well. So, because I've always been behind the theory that this whole truck thing was kind of staged, or at the most the seat was pulled forward because they were checking something in the back. And I think maybe they just switched because they said there was no tracks leading into or out of the farm, and it rained pretty good. And like I said, every time we went out there, it had just got done raining, and you can see the tracks. And you would think there would be tracks from the truck. You should be able to just see it, and there's nothing. So that what he just said right there, and I'll back it up just in case if you missed it, because I think that's really interesting that they talk about how he just used the pressure washer.
First of all, he washed his own truck. I know that for sure because I deceived him about it. Because his truck was filthy, and he bought a new pressure washer. And when I seen it clean, I was teasing him. I said, "Well, did you get a new truck?" Because it surprised me. I hadn't seen it like that for months. Yeah, like it was new. And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Do you finally put that new pressure washer to work, huh?" He goes, "Yeah, I spent 2 hours, and I didn't do that great a job." And I said, "Yeah, look at you didn't wash underneath at all. You know, the wells have still had turning." I said, and he goes, "I don't care about that. That'll eventually fall off. I'm just worried about, I just got."
I bet the appearance of it.
I was all about the appearance, and the whole back of his truck just had oil and grease and diesel fuel. And if you threw a shovel in there and you pulled it out, it would have grease on it.
Ah.
Because now I grab that shovel, I just throw it in there for a minute. Next time I take it out, it's got grease on it, and then I grab it. And pretty soon I got grease on my shirt, grease on, all over me from the handle of the shovel. And it made me mad. I said, "You got to get this thing cleaned out. I ain't throw anything back there. It's a nightmare."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, look in the back." I stood up on, there's a thing you pull out. Stood up there and looked around. My God, man, that looks like a new truck. I think, yeah, that's 2 hours of my time that I really didn't have to do this, but it's done. I mean, well, that's pretty cool. That part is, his truck was locked. They couldn't find he didn't have keys. He had a key fob. He never carried that around because it was too big to put in your pocket. It was obnoxious.
Yeah.
He was just like, hide it, lay it, somewhere. And he was telling me one day,
the way he tells the story, I would say
if it's not within a certain
sounds like he's telling the
truck, he said,
truth.
if I got this key fob, he would bring it, lay it on the table. He said, if I have this, somebody can go start my truck if I don't lock it. But once it gets out of distance, the key fob, it just shuts off. I said, "Really? That's pretty cool." He goes, "Yeah, I don't worry about it because they're not going to get very far. They get a certain distance away from this, it's going to shut off." Now that's pretty awesome. But anyway, I didn't know that.
Which was 5 miles from his property, and
okay, so I'm gonna pause it real quick. Rocky K9, thanks Chris and Nick for your personal hard work in finding missing people. I'm so glad I found your channel on YouTube. You guys did awesome job. Thank you, Rocky K9. We were trying our best. We're trying to be respectful of the family. I know that Jazz, who runs the Facebook for the Dylan Rounds, the official one for the family, they had watched our show a couple of I think it was last week when I had Gizla from Grizzly True Crime on, and said that they were really happy with how we talked about the case and stuck with the facts. And so that was really cool to hear that we have some support from the people that are close to the family. And I've had some of the family members reach out to me. I've been very respectful. Not I kind of reached out to the mother in the very, very beginning, but I don't want to bother them right now. I can only imagine they're going through a lot, but like I said, yeah, we try to be respectful for what's going on, and we try to stick with facts, but at the same time, YouTube, the great thing about YouTube channel is you get to you can speculate and discuss things. Okay, so let's continue.
The owner has not been able to retrieve that message, assuming that law enforcement has already got.
Okay, so this is something that was new and I played in my last live that I found that I thought was very, very interesting. So apparently Dylan obviously made the call to his grandmother early in the morning, told her that he was going to park the green truck, and then that was basically the last they'd heard from him. Grandma tried to call, he didn't answer, but apparently, and you're going to hear in just a second, apparently Dylan made a phone call to the owner of the property, so where he keeps the grain shed, real quick here, just so you guys understand. where he keeps the grain shed. He shares that property. Which the property line, is kind of like a square here. So he was sharing this property, and apparently what you're going to hear in this interview here is they talk about how he makes a phone call to the owner around 4 o'clock, which I find very interesting that the last cell phone ping they get is at 3:41. So I think it's this ping, this 3:41, that he calls this apparently the property owner, and the owner didn't answer and left a voicemail. So there's a voicemail apparently of Dylan at approximately around 3:41. So clearly he was most likely alive at that time, but it sounds like something probably happened. Maybe he was calling because something was going down, or something went down right after that.
It sounds like possibly Dylan was calling him to report a problem. So it sounds to me like the FBI and everybody would know, which people are really involved, and just a matter of getting to the, final details of this crime.
The guy that owns the property out there, he said, I just found out about this, this is pretty crazy. I said, yeah, it's just like a bad nightmare for me. And he said, well, Dylan called me. I was stuck up in Idaho in another time zone and everything else. So the times are all, I can't really say if it was 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. But he called me. I was out of service, so he left a message. And it's more than a minute long, and I can't listen to it. And I was like, that's the word. I have messages but more than a minute on my phone. I don't understand that. But he said, I called Verizon. I said, why can't I listen to this message? And they said, well, because it's too long. And they said, well, if law enforcement can get it, but you can't. We can give it to them, but not you. And I said, dude, you've got to call. I'll give you the FBI guy's name right now. You can call and get this. Figure out what that message is. Because the time was about the time this probably happened, about 4 o'clock on Saturday.
Oh, he left a message on your phone around that time?
Oh, on this other guy's phone. He called this guy that owns the property where he parked that truck.
Oh, he called them around 4?
Yep.
And he left a message and the guy can't retrieve it?
He can't himself, but that's why I said, well, and Verizon told him he wanted to hear it. But they said, we can't let you listen to it, but law enforcement can get that. If they call us, we'll get it for them, but we can't give it to you. I was like, well, that's all that.
There's 10 shots. They shot at me 10 times on a fucking...
Okay, all right. So there was that. Now, so here's the interview that I'm going to play. Trigger warning. There is a lot of cussing in it. Apparently, they're drunk at the bar. This guy interviews Kurt, and they talk about a scenario of what could have happened with Dylan. I try to bleep out as many F words as I can. There are a ton of them. So, warning right now, if you can't stand the F-bomb, like I said, I do bleep it, but you still can kind of hear it. I tried my best to really kind of edit, but this is really interesting, the way he talks about how this supposed theory of what could have happened to him unfolds. So, warning now. I'm going to play it now. There's a lot of F-bombs. So, here we go. Obviously, we're just playing my footage of us being out there. But this was really interesting.
He's getting out. And they say, Dylan, will you hire us? We need a job. And Dylan's looking, I'm like, no, I'm not hiring. I don't need no help right now. I got plenty of help. And they're like, and then it goes right to, they heard about $30,000 check, then it rolls to, okay, fucker.
Give us some money.
We need some money.
Fuck, that's... Wow. You...
Yeah, he does.
And Dylan's, and he's a cocky little fucker. If they said, we want your money, he's like, fuck you.
Yeah, like I said, I know we're all adults, but some people, you know, I just want to warn people because it is just F-bomb, F-bomb, F-bomb. It's like, holy cow. But yeah, clearly he's drunk, so, you know, shooting the shit, obviously. Thank you, Dave, so much. Hope this helps out the host, Chris. Thank you so much, Dave. You're awesome. Of course, everything that comes in goes right back into this channel and helps support the missing. So anyway, so this is interview with Kurt and Salty Pancake, I think. I don't know this guy, but it's with Kurt, and I believe they've been drinking, and they talk about a scenario.
You know, that's kind of a stupid thing to do, in a way. If there's two guys running you and you act like that, you said, oh, you want money? Why, you hold me up or something? Yeah, we got a gun. Here it is right here. Oh, okay. Well, we got to go for the. Can you give me a ride back to my farm? That's where my money's at. It's not here. I just parked my truck here. That's all. I don't have no money here. Well, let's go for a little ride, and I'll give you some money. Get you off my ass, you know? I mean, what's money worth if you're going to die? Not worth a fuck, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, it is.
He's 19 years old. He don't think that way. He's thinking, no, fuck you. You're not good. Fuck you. And then they pull a gun out, and he's like, oh, shit.
Oh, my God.
And he runs out the back door of that shop out to that pile of dirt out there because he knew where that was at. He's thinking, I know a place I can get behind a pile of dirt and they'll shoot me out until they run out of fucking ammo, and I'll run the fucking, and then I'll haul ass again, right? Because they know how many shots in the gun you got to refill, right? I mean, if you got a brain, you know, you make 10 shots, most with a pistol now. There's 10 shots. They shot at me 10 times, and I'm gonna, you know. But I think what happened is one of them went out there after they shot at him. They went out there. They thought they hit him, and they may have hit him because that one of the psychics said he got hit in the head, and they thought he was fucking dead. And they go out there, and he's not dead. They're like, oh shit, he's still alive. We thought we can't let him run away because he's gonna tell the authorities, right? So we're gonna kill him, right? And they didn't get the job done. So I'm like, oh, he's still alive. So now what?
Okay, I'm sorry not to laugh, but I had to work my ass off to put those beeps in. I had to put every single beep in and line it up, and then and I didn't want it too loud to where it's like blowing everybody's ears out, and like I said, I didn't have enough. That took I swear that took like 30 minutes to do just this like 10-minute I think it's a 5-minute conversation. I'm like, oh my goodness. But like I said, this story is interesting. So right now he's talking about a scenario where two guys came up on Dylan. They kind of want his money. Dylan says F off. They follow Dylan back to the grain shed. Then they proceed to pull out guns and say, all right, you know, and then Dylan's like, oh shoot, and starts running to the dirt hill. They're shooting at him, and now we're at where they're kind of shooting at him, and he's behind the dirt pile.
What are we gonna do with it? You know, and maybe he was alive enough that he took his boot off. The only thing he had to fight with. That's what I think happened with the boots. He took his boot off to use as a weapon against them because they're trying to come. They're coming at him. He's wounded. They're coming at his ass, right? And he takes his boot off and he's swinging at the fucker, trying to get him off. Rather, you know, with the only weapon he's got. And, you know, imagine if you swing a boot or something, you miss, it's going to go flying. You can't hold on to it. It's heavy enough, it's going to fly around. So he managed to get his other boot off.
Were they steel toe?
No. They're just fucking, you know, work boots. So, you know, but if you're swinging a boot, you're using the heel. The heel is what's going to do the work for you. Imagine getting a hold of a boot. You know the high top boots?
And his boots were his only weapon.
Yeah, maybe the Lord's putting these thoughts in my mind. They could be, I don't know. But I just want to imagine happen. So he takes his other boot off, and he takes a few swings at him, and he misses again. That boot goes flying the other fucking direction, right? Now he's fucked. Only thing he can do is fucking run. Well, he's wounded to start with. He has no shoes on. How far is he going to run? They got shoes on. They're not wounded. And they chase him fucking down. They get their hands on him, and they start beating on him to calm him down, right? They're like, you motherfucker, you're not getting away. You better quit beating on, you better quit swinging because we're going to kick your ass. Damn. And then they put a fucking piece of twine around his neck, and they walk him back to their vehicle or whatever with a piece of twine around his neck. He has no way to get away. At this point, he realizes I'm fucked. I am fucked. I gotta listen to these motherfuckers at this point. I gotta appease them to some degree. I've appeased them. They're gonna fucking kill my ass.
Oh my God, that makes the most sense.
So at some point, they said, "Where's your fucking money?" He
Where's
goes,
the money?
Where's the money? And he says, "Okay, well, you know, he's trying to appease him. He doesn't want to die because they have a fucking rope around his neck, and they're gonna throw him in the trunk of a fucking car, I have to think, and they're gonna take him to a drive." Well, they probably set him in the seat to say, "Okay, show us the way to where the money's at." At that point, I don't think they knew where his farm was at. So this is how the seat and his shit got forward, okay? So they drive him, they make him show him where his place is at, right? He's tied up, he has no defense whatsoever, and they said, "Where's your wallet?" "It's in my truck right there."
And that's why they put him in the back of the truck, because probably blood was dripping out.
Oh, I don't think that happened. No, I don't think that. But
Well,
anyway,
if he was shot, there would be, he would be dripping blood.
well, maybe that happened or maybe it didn't. You think?
That's a good question, Henry. But I'll tell you what, they were out there at that grain shed for a long time, and I've heard that they were digging. So maybe some of this is true. I would not be surprised if parts of this, of what's going on, could be what happened. I would not be surprised if there's little bits of this that are what went down. I don't think this is what went down. It seems kind of silly to me, to be honest, but I don't know. But this is just kind of him sharing a scenario. Thank you so much. Animals are angels for the $6.99. You're so awesome. Thank you so much. But yeah, I know it is a little with them supposedly putting twine around his neck and all this. Like I said, you got to remember he's been drinking, so a lot of this could be just exaggeration. And honestly, I think if he knew all this stuff, he wouldn't be talking about it, because he'd be being interrogated by the FBI. But then again, I don't know. I'm not law enforcement, but I would not be surprised if some of this does turn out to be true in some form or capacity.
There'd be blood. There'd be blood in the car, which is still sitting in town over here. It still sits in town, and nobody's looked at that fucking car. Now, who in the fuck is behind this investigation? Not even they caught Robert out there. They watched him out there one day. Justin was following him. He had somebody following him. He went out there one day and he came back. I don't know what happened on that. And he went out the next day again, and he was digging a hole. And that's when he called the authorities, and they actually arrested his ass.
Okay, so that is it for that little interview there that I could get a hold of. And what you're seeing, so this is Park Valley. Okay, so let me pause this here. So yeah, that was a lot to take in, and yeah, that was a lot of work to put into all those beeps. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that took a lot of work to get all that all fixed. Obviously you can still hear it, but I did my best in the little time that I had. So anyway, for those that are tuning in and wondering, so like I said, the last time we went out there south of Park Valley. And then a couple days ago, I got a hold, because we work along Search and Rescue, who review our drone footage. And I had gotten a text message a couple days ago saying, OMG, you guys could be on the right path. And I'm like, oh shoot, and so I called her that night. I said, what's going on? And she said, well, there was a flight recently which took place this last Sunday, as you can see, and they were basically gridding, mapping 3D. I'm assuming that's she told me some things that I can't say, but basically it sounds like they had this private aircraft had LiDAR, and they were mapping in 3D. What's very interesting is that they took this extra circle in this area right here, which is very fascinating. The rest stays the same, but the fact that they took this extra loop is interesting. And now apparently that they are, because we were south of Park Valley, we were doing some drone stuff down here, and I think we're kind of in this loop a little bit as well. And anyway, I just know that they are been reviewing our footage more closely. I guess that's the best way to put it. And but she said the only problem is yes, this is great for them, what they're doing with the LiDAR and everything, but it would be really nice for us to go out there with our drones and get in closer, because with the private aircraft, they're up 10,000 feet in the air. With a drone, we can get in there at 30 feet and get a much more detailed map for them. And so our destination is going to be, obviously we're not going to give our exact location, but we're going to be in Park Valley and the Bovine Mountain area, because that's what this is. This is the Bovine Mountains here. And let's just assume if this was where they dropped him off. And like I said, this is just a lead. That doesn't mean this is the lead. It's just a lead. But thank you, BH, for the $4.99 super sticker. You're awesome. So, if they did, let's say, dump Dylan off somewhere, I would probably say that it is most likely, because we were talking about this with some other people, that if they did drop him off somewhere out here, it was most likely in just a regular vehicle, because to have a trailer or I mean to have a four-wheeler or a horse, it would have needed a trailer, and I think you would have been bringing a lot of tension. You would have much bigger tracks with the trailer, and I think somebody would have seen something coming in and coming back. And so the reason I mentioned that is if it is out here and they just most likely just had a normal vehicle, truck, car, whatever, then that means that they couldn't get into some of these tougher terrains, that you would need a four-wheeler, which means that he could possibly be really close to a dirt road and stuff. Yes, thank you so much. Oh, did someone give me $30 before that? Did I miss something? No. And I need to shout everybody out that give me a PayPal and stuff, and I'm going to do that. Did I miss somebody? I thought I got the $30. No, I got Angels. If I did, let me know. Okay, quickly, I just want to shout out Penny, Audrey, and Melissa for the Cash Apps the last 2 days, and then Linda, Apple Pip, and Paula, Raina, and Darlene. Thank you guys so much for the PayPals as well. Sorry, I just want to make sure I don't forget that. You guys are so awesome. And thank you, Dawn, for your Cash App. And if I miss you today, I would definitely get you tomorrow. So, like I said, if it is that he got disposed up in this area, there's a good possibility that it was just from a regular vehicle, which means that they didn't get disposed, far off from like maybe a dirt path or a road. And I personally think maybe no more than 2 to 3 people are involved. I think if there was more than like maybe 2 or 3 people, I feel like with $100,000 on the line, that this would have been over and they would have found him. Someone would have talked by now. So I really think, and it's most likely, Jim's one of them, and maybe another. There's a Robert Avilias, who I haven't really talked about much on this channel, and I will probably, the next time, we'll kind of talk about him, because he kind of plays in with Chase and everything. But, and kind of the story that goes along with this. But, just in a nutshell, they're really heavily focused on scanning this area on Sunday, and I just know that they're reviewing our footage that we have from the last time we went out there that was close to Park Valley. So, and as you can see, it's nowhere near Lucin, so we're not bothering anybody, and that's kind of our target area, is to check out that area. So this is Park Valley, just a little town here. This is like probably your main intersection right here. It's like as big as Montello, except it's a little more spaced out. This is the Bovine Mountains. So we're looking north right here. So that's the Bovine Mountains. That's kind of cool with the little clock here. This is a little motel. I think it's, it doesn't look bad, but I don't think anybody's been there for a while. But it looks really kind of, looks in decent shape, like the actual building itself. But the yard needs to be kind of trimmed. Mama 4, thank you so much for the $4.99. Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much. Like I said, thank you everybody. You guys are amazing. We couldn't get out there without your guys' help, honestly. And I'll just show you what the Bovine Mountains look like. So let me skip forward a little bit here. So here's just kind of some drone footage of the Bovine Mountains. They're really beautiful. They're further up. They're kind of granite, rocky area. Yeah, it is. No offense to Montello, but it's just it's in an area that's obviously a little more lush, green. And so this is actually kind of looking almost south. So I would say Park Valley is probably maybe over here. Not 100% sure, but now, there is a lot of mines up in Bovine Mountains. A lot of mines. So we are going to take some equipment. But like I said, it really depends on how many people were involved. And because you got to remember, dead weight is a lot. And even just for one person, even though I think he was $160, $180, that's a lot of weight, a lot of dead weight. Rebecca, thank you so much for the $3. You're awesome. Thank you. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful place. So, anyway, let me double check my phone while this finishes real quick. I just don't want to forget anybody. And like I said, we're not sure. We're going to see. We're going to try to maybe go out tomorrow. We're kind of keeping our eye on the wind. Right now it's kind of windy out there. And when it's windier, it kind of sucks the battery up. So we got to be careful to time it just right. Because if it uses up more battery, then that's less flight time for us. We're trying to get a hold of a second drone. Still, I might be able to get that tonight, hopefully, because we have a couple ideas. But let's see. So I think cover that. So yeah, I think that is going to do it. Oh, of course. Thank you, Paula, again. Paula, let's say thank you so much. Great work on the F-bombs. Yeah, that was a lot of work, and I still missed one or two, I'm sure. So, love the squirrel footage. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, so there's if you're not a member and you want to become a member, I've got tons of extra footage that I'm going to be releasing. I do kind of some funny videos, and then for those that are newer, I do Paranormal Tuesdays. So yesterday I released a video on Elisa Lam, which kind of falls in along those lines. And what I do for paranormal is more along the lines of like missing 411 kind of stuff. So it's not like ghost videos or whatever. I try to take something that's like Skinwalker Ranch, something that has truth to it, something that has some kind of form to it. So that's what I do when it comes to the paranormal, is I actually take real stories that do have some kind of mystery behind it. So with that, I think we're going to end it there, guys. And I will update your guys' names for those that are the new members. And I am working on a new pet video here soon as well. So if you don't see your pet, be patient. It'll get there, I promise. So, just checking. Yeah, boy, that would be nice. That would save us some time. Because, I don't know how much we can get up there. Thank you, Mr. Christie. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you, Paula. You're so sweet. You're awesome. Thank you so much. I wish I could shout everybody out. Mods, you're amazing. Copper Horse, everybody. I just wish I could shout everybody out, but we'd be here all night. So I'm going to play an outro, which is our viewers' pets. If you'd like to have your pet shown, email me, and it takes a while, but I'll get it in there. So with that said, guys, I love you guys so much, and we will see you possibly tomorrow.